It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. After nearly 10 years, this is the final weekly edition of ChinnyVision, initially coming out on a Friday afternoon every week and then Thursday evening. And today is the 11th of April, 2024. And 40 years ago today, this very machine in front of me was launched. The Amstrad CPC 464, the first computer I ever used. Not the first one I ever owned, the first one I ever used. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of stuff, people talking about the CPC 464 and the 40th anniversary of the Amstrad CPC. I've not scripted anything for this. I didn't feel that would be right for the final edition of ChinnyVision. I just wanted to do it off the cuff and talk about the machine. And I'm sure other people will do better histories and stuff. I don't care. This is at least a machine I'm very passionate about. If you ask me which one I was going to have, I'd have a 6128, as I did and still do. But this is where it all started, so bear with me as I rather ramble through this. So why did Amstrad make a computer? Well, why not? They were in the market to make anything really by the early 80s. CB radios, hi-fis, always had an eye on new markets, dipping in and getting out before the market crashed in the case of CB radios. And Alan Sugar had seen all these computers in the shops. So he sent out one of his employees to the local Dixons to pick up a selection of them so he could appraise the market. And that's exactly what they did. They looked at many machines, the Spectrum, the VIC-20 was one of them as well, and decided all these machines weren't particularly elegant solutions. They didn't have monitors, didn't have built-in tape decks. Amstrad were used to kind of doing stuff all in one. And it seemed to Amstrad there were cables everywhere, and it was all rather inelegant. So they thought, okay, we could get into this computer game. And they contacted some people who'd helped them out with some problems with, I don't know if it was tape recorders or CB radios before, who'd said, oh, we make computers, this father and his son. And they went, right, okay, we can design the inside of the computer, the board. Amstrad wanted a 6502, they wanted colour graphics and sound, and they'd specified a full keyboard and a built-in tape drive and a included monitor. And Amstrad set about doing the plastics, the keyboards and everything, and the monitors. And this guy and his son were supposed to be doing the bit inside, the circuit board. Didn't quite work out that way. They couldn't really deliver anything that worked. So Alan Sugar contacted, and his engineers contacted a company called Ambit, no relation, run by a bloke called William Pole, and one Roland Perry working there as well. And they said to Ambit, can you sort this out for us, please? Because we can't sell what these guys have developed. Ambit took up the job of designing the 464. They had a sharp deadline, a harsh deadline to get this machine made. They were impressed by the fact that Amstrad had done all the plastics and stuff, but they had to basically get it ready so it would be on the market in time for autumn 1984, in the run up to Christmas, which meant really the machine had to be locked down around Christmas 1983 in order to get everything else done. They contacted a company called Locomotive Software, who could do basics, basic and operating system and things like that. And Locomotive said, yeah, we can do this in the deadline, but you can't have a 6502. Because if you use a Z80, we've already got a basic that runs on, I think, the second processor for the BBC Micro that we could adapt. So hence why the CPC ended up being a Z80. Also specified, and I'm not going into too much detail here, was the fact that the Ambit guys thought this thing should have a gate array, which would give it more capabilities than just basic sound and basic graphics. I think what Amstrad wanted was something like a VIC-20, but with a built-in monitor and tape deck and stuff, that kind of capability. But the Ambit guys were thinking more seriously than that. And they put this to Alan Sugar, because Amstrad had already bought all the components. They even bought the 6502s, but Amstrad were very good at getting rid of stuff and just swapping it for other materials. They were quite easy about that. And once it was pointed out to Alan Sugar that a gate array would stop piracy or make it harder to pirate the machine, he was well up for that. The development of the CPC is quite well documented, and we all know that it was a secret. Amstrad were making it. The internal code name was Arnold, which was actually to try and throw the press off the scent. If they got wind there was a machine with Arnold on it, the prototype's out there, they'd think it was nicknamed after Arnold Weinstock of GEC. And they just think GEC will make a computer, not Amstrad. And yes, it was, without going into all the detail, April the 11th. And actually some things also mention it was a 2-day event at the Westminster School Westminster. Amstrad launched the 464 with production units. They weren't Sinclair. They didn't turn up with machines that weren't working or empty cases or say, hey, in 6 months' time, we're going to have this brilliant new machine. No, Amstrad were there and, with real production machines that worked, saying, yes, by June, these are going to be in Dixon's. And yeah, there's pictures in the first Amstrad computer user, I think, or the first or second edition of the first batch of 464s in June 84, hitting the streets, very much like you see a kind of launch of an iPhone or something today, with queues of people in the shop, machines piled up, exactly what Alan Sugar wanted to see, these machines available. And there were a lot of machine launches at this time. And what was different about the 464? Well, first, it was an all-in-one unit with a tape deck monitor and, everything's there. Joystick interface, the Spectrum didn't have that. And it looked like a proper computer, like Alan Sugar wanted the punters to see it like the computer they saw being checked in at the airport. Hence why it's 27 feet wide. One for Rod Hull of the Futurist 8-bit there, because he loves those gags. And Amstrad also made sure there was loads of software available. And I know we often joke about the quality of the early Amsoft titles, but it really was a rush to get titles onto the CPC. Developers would have 2 weeks to get their titles onto the systems initially. So, no wonder things like Harrier Attack and so on, and Bridget and that lot are quite basic when you consider the coders had not seen the machine before, no experience of using it, and you had 2 weeks to turn your game around. So, some of those early CPC titles are pretty ropey, but it's kind of understandable. Where did I first come into contact with the 464? Well, the bloke who owned the shop next door to me, he gave his son for his birthday, it must have been mid-85, a 464. Should we turn this one on? Should we turn it on? Should work. Hopefully it was working when I tested it earlier. Turn it on. There we go. I only got a green screen here, and I know the geometry's out, but there we go. She's working. Let's load something. Why not? I've got some... I know what we load. This is going to be a gamble, isn't it, in this unscripted video? Trying to Spectrum this side, Amstrad, other Amstrad's going to be on that side. Is that rewinding? Yes, it needs rewinding. Spectrum was the last version game I played. So we load Werewolves of London on this while I'm talking to you. So yeah, the kid next door basically had one of these, and Dad would bring it down on a Saturday, and we'd sit in the back of the shop, and we'd be playing Ghostbusters. We'd be playing snooker game, the Amsoft snooker game. It was the Amsoft snooker game. We'd be playing Ya Kung Fu, perhaps not at that time, but later. I'm trying to think of the early games. Harrier Attack was the first game I ever saw. It's going to be interesting. This is Jeopardy, isn't it? This is Jeopardy. We're going to see if this 464 actually loads, because I've just literally got it out of storage, because it's not my... 6128 is my daily driver. And I've since moved house, and I don't know if this thing's going to be working particularly well, but we will see. We will see. Go on, find something. This is the experience. I've only got a green screen. Duncan had a 464 tool keys. Obviously, it was one of the early ones with a colour monitor. Here we go. That sounds healthy. I have redone that tape deck years ago. I haven't done anything about this monitor with its dodgy geometry. Those are the sounds of my youth, just sitting there, those magical sounds of, if you can hear that there's something, I know I'm talking to you a week before the actual date, there is something kind of about that noise, those noises that get me. Just, seeing this game, Harrier Attack, and it seemed like the most amazing, people talk about Shadow of the Beast on the Amiga and going, wow. Me just seeing Harrier Attack, which I put on the screen, and just going, well, that's like full motion graphics, that's like photorealistic. No, it's not. But you're controlling something on the screen. It was utterly amazing. I remember every detail of that first afternoon, and only getting the briefest of plays on this machine and wanting more. It was like, there we go. She's loading. Is that screen set up nicely? This is a far later game, by the way. I'm loading this for a friend who is watching this as well, who will recognise this because he had it on his C64. And we bought it from the same shop, which will be still on my original copy. So yeah, that's where it kind of started for me, and just going around the back of that shop on a Saturday. If I was lucky, he was there and with the computer. Some days he'd be off doing other things, but I wanted more of this stuff. And then we got our 6128 that Christmas, and that was a world of disc games and having to try and get tape games loading in. And it's the computer that changed everything for Amstrad, really. They were an electronics manufacturer, often rebadging stuff from the Far East. Companies like Orion, they just take a CB radio that someone else has made, like Orion, and stick their name on it. Sometimes they redesign things, sometimes they have things slightly redesigned for their spec. The CPC was to be a completely new thing. Amstrad would have designed everything in it. The monitor is designed by Orion, but it's still Amstrad's plastics and to their specification. They actually looked at doing an MSX machine, because MSX was a thing that was happening at the time. So Amstrad looked at that and went, no, because you're going to have competitors doing different machines. The only point of differentiation is going to be the plastics, and we want to have the whole thing, because someone can go and buy a Sony, like a hi-fi, and then Amstrad would end up at the bottom of the market selling low-end stuff, where this was a different thing. This is still a mug's eyeful, as Alan Sugar used to say about his stuff, and it's still affordable when you consider this setup here. Didn't start out at $199 because they actually had to put the price of the CPC up when it first launched because of extra costs. Was it $229 or $239 for this version with the green screen, or another £100 for the colour? When you consider getting, for that money, getting a display, green screen in this case, and your computer, you don't need any extra tape deck. Everything's controlled with 2 leads and 1 mains adapter, and you wouldn't be tying up your family TV. It's a pretty good deal. And it's a machine, this is, 464 is just, it's that one. It's that feeling of looking at a 464 and going, it's a computer. For me, this is a computer. Nothing else is a 6128's a computer, an Amiga's computer, but this is a computer. This is the first thing I ever saw. I may have walked past Spectrums or Commodore 64s in shops. I don't remember that. I saw this with a colour monitor and went, this is it. This is the future. This is everything. Everything changes from now on. And this launched Amstrad going into computers seriously. They were serious about it to begin with, but it may have turned out to be another fad. Enough companies around this time went bust. Although Amstrad, trying to sell their machines, Auric, the Enterprise, Dragon, all these companies had tried, although Amstrad had more experience in putting this stuff out, speaking to retailers, getting their machines into Dixon's, into Comet, into Curry's, all these places, Lasky's, making sure the machine was available and it would be backed up with support, and not just token support like Sinclair did and hoping the market would take off. It was, there is going to be 50 titles for this machine by Christmas. It was something like that. And that's what they did, and therefore you can wait until the other manufacturers catch up with you and let them take over. But initially it's like, it was, Amsoft was a complete, it was a very strange thing for Amstrad to set up. There were people in the company who thought, this is a really weird thing. We're an electronics company. Why are we selling software? But Alan Sugar and Malcolm Miller, the sales and marketing director, realised the value of getting that software base in. and having this separate little company on one floor of the Amstrad building that were just pumping out software and launching a magazine as well. Amstrad went to all the magazine publishers, and I think they were quoted 30 or 40 grand for a test issue of an Amstrad magazine. So Amstrad went, right, we'll do it ourselves. Why not? We're Amstrad, we can do this stuff. And that's how Amstrad Computer User was launched. And, Amstrad had their own national newsstand magazine published by themselves. No third parties involved. Amstrad Computer, there wasn't a Future, didn't exist. But it wasn't published by an existing publishing company like Newsfield. It was Amstrad putting out a national newsstand magazine from a floor of their offices. Eventually, I think 86, 87, they sold it to Avrolite? But they were still based in Amstrad HQ until about 88, issue 50, when Simon Rockman gave up the editorship, and then it became rubbish. There we go! Can you hear that? Move the mic round. Yay. Yeah, I can't get in close. I'm going to... Yay. Adjust this monitor. I should probably be doing something more structured, but I really don't care. This is the... Woohoo. Get that? Cursor keys adjust, don't they? They do. Let's go eat some people. I picked this joystick, by the way, that you can see or you can't see. Let's get over as well. Oh, I've got a tube ticket. I'm going to change back. Oh, you're going to ignore me now, aren't you? Anyway, let's turn that down a second. Still loads. Still loads. And the reason I picked this joystick is because it's similar but not identical to the one I had. I didn't have the turbo. I had the non-micro-switched one. So this is better. But we tolerated joysticks like this with a massive amount of movement. Oh, yeah, look at me. I'm flying an airplane. And then now all I want is a kind of nice small competition, not competition pro, a zip stick or what have you. Power Play Cruiser, if you can stand the noise it makes. I mean, this one's pretty crunchy. I have done some work on this one to make it better. Green screens. We should probably talk about that, shouldn't we? Oh, no, pause the game. Why did Amstrad go for a green screen? The answer is Amstrad wanted to upsell to a colour unit and also make it affordable. It certainly didn't cost Amstrad another £100 to upgrade a 12-inch green screen to a 14-inch colour monitor. But Amstrad, with all their stuff, for example, their satellite dishes, they sold them without the remote control. It had all the circuitry inside, and they just bundled in a remote control if you paid the extra 50 or 60 quid. And Amstrad knew everyone would go for the better version. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I didn't know any Amstrad owners with a colour monitor. Contrary to that, I only knew one Amstrad owner with a green screen monitor. We had a load of them in our town because we had an Amstrad dealer. So I knew a load of Amstrad owners and a lot of 628 owners, but more 464 owners, but mostly colour ones. My cousin had a green screen 464, and we used to play. I'm going to get this off a minute. Rewind that. She had a green screen 464, and we used to play Pipeline 2 on it and games like that. I had this on disc. She had it on cassette. Great game. We'll try and load that in a second. This is rambling. This is really rambling. I don't care. And yeah, so we played those games, and it was all good. And as I say, joysticks. Joysticks were expensive, and you made them last a long time. I had my original one of these from 1985 until I think 89. When I got a terrible cheetah joystick. Is that rewound yet? No auto stop on the rewind. The green screens, though, they also reflect the fact that CPC was not just intended as a games machine. This is what people don't understand. That the CPC had a wealth of serious software. Amstrad wanted a home computer. I know Sinclair and Commodore all said this stuff. Amstrad were very serious about this. They had a disk drive in development, and launched it at the same time as the 464. Although all the development was done on 5-inch discs, and Amstrad settled on the 3-inch disc. They had the discs for demos at the launch. And they knew pretty much straight away when they were developing this, they were going to be making a 664, and that would have CPM, which leads on to the 6128, or CPM 2.2, and wrong way round. Try again. So they knew there'd be a 612 or a 664, and they knew they'd have CPM 2.2, and therefore you open yourself up to a wealth of software. And I've read accounts of people taking these into deserts for tank weapons training, because these were, a lot of stuff was being done on Z80 CPM systems at this time, serious development as well for industrial uses, and you could just get a 6128 effectively, or 464 in a disk drive, and for a quarter of the cost, less than that, you could have a CPM system, and you're not having to have this massive expensive thing, and you could develop stuff at home. And that's why, and Amstrad also having the support for all the peripherals that they had. I hope I'm putting some stuff on the screen while I'm doing this, that kind of made this into a serious system. And the legacy of this goes into the PCW as a word processor, and the entire Amstrad PC range that Amstrad had got seriously into computers. And sadly, the Amstrad PC range is why the CPC got a bit forgotten about, because far more profits in £800-900 computers if you're selling the hard drive versions, which are the most popular, than on a 199 green screen 464. That said, although these didn't really change in look other than the keys kind of changing early on, Amstrad would, every year or so, when it went into production again for that year, would revise the design. This is not a long board CPC 464. The original boards go along to the end. This one's a 88 model. You can tell that because it's got an Amstrad, new Amstrad logo on there, and the board's up in there like that. And I've got an earlier one with a longer board somewhere, and the joystick port on the back, and the joystick port moved around to the side because there's nothing up there. There's nothing up there, back there, on this 464. And this is the machine that kind of refused to die. I think Amstrad were on a learning curve with the 464. To them, really, this was like another product like a hi-fi, except they were doing it a bit more seriously and throwing more money at it. I don't think they thought 40 years later people would be talking about these. I don't think they thought 5 years later people would be using these, let alone stopping production in, 91 for the final 464 and 6128 pluses. I think the final date codes for that are 91. That's not a bad life, really. Machines, over 3 million CPCs sold. Again, who would have thought? And Amstrad managed to avoid the computer kind of recession of 85 when companies were going under because they had division in France. The French had really taken to the CPC. They liked the fact that it was all simple. 2 cables and a mains lead, and that's it. Everything's built in. The French loved that. So that Amstrad were trying to sell stock, or weren't trying to sell stock. What happened in the Great 85 is Dixon's and someone are ringing up Amstrad going, we know you're sitting on a load of stock. Will you sell us a few computers cheaply? And Amstrad going, no, we've got no computers. And Dixon's going, no. We know you've got computers. Everyone else has got computers. It's oversaturated. Go on, sell us a few CPCs cheap. And Amstrad going, no. Because they'd sent them all to France and Spain when there was loads of demand. So they didn't get hit in the way, even though they didn't have a particularly good Christmas in the UK that year. It didn't matter. They were going to France, they were going to Spain, they were also going to Germany by this stage. They're selling... This is a really slow loader, isn't it? I think it is, yeah. Again, I remember this screen. Lining up Super Pipeline 2 on my cousin's computer. But turn the volume up. And really, even all these years later, I look at a 464 and go, yeah, this is what it's about. The noise is... I'm a purist. This is a later model with the Spanish bits on the side. Purta or Zero or user ports, because Amstrad were very keen on. If you can flip them between markets easily, they quite like that. If you can just change out the bit at the top and send a load off to Spain. And they frequently did. There's I've got a German 6128 that has not been anywhere near Germany. Apparently come back into the country, and it's Amstrad, but it's got the Centronics connectors on the back, which would be, if you went down to the shop and realised none of your peripherals worked at some point afterwards, that would be annoying, wouldn't it? But yeah, I've got a German 6128 somewhere. But it's 40 years of the 464 in this rambling, incoherent video, where I'm sure someone else is going to put out a more polished video. And it is remarkable. The CPC has survived all this time. It's not just survived, it's flourished. We've got amazing new games. Pinball Dreams got the new racing game from the Batman Group coming out soon. The fact people are still publishing for it and supporting it, and the user base is still there. Big shout out to the CPC Wiki guys, where there's an excellent forum. Don't go on Facebook forums, go on CPC Wiki forum. That's where it's all at. I can't, all this Facebook stuff with, yeah, that is the best resource for CPC stuff. You've got CPC Power with a fantastic selection of software. Yes, you might battle through a few pages of French. Doesn't matter. It's easy to use. You can look up games very easily. I think other websites should look how well CPC Power is organised, and you can select by publish and all this wonderful menu system they've got in there. Big shout out to them. And it makes me proud to be part of this wonderful community and be an Amstrad owner at this time. And it is something that's within you. It's not, this wasn't my first computer, so it's 6128, but this is the brother / sister of the first machine I had, and it's the first computer I ever used. I'm remarkably attached to it. It's got wonderful games, which I'm not going to cover off on this video. I just wanted to have a chat about the CPC and talk about how wonderful it is, and all the wonderful people at Amstrad who worked on this. The Ambit guys, William Pole and Roland Perry, who, without them pressuring Amstrad to do things the right way, we might have ended up with a VIC-20 clone that would have just been surpassed. Not a VIC-20 clone, but a VIC-20 type machine, that kind of specification, that would have just really... It might have succeeded, but I don't think it would have had the life this Z80-based system with a gate array has to this day, because it hasn't died. We all thought it had when Amstrad Action closed. We thought that was it, but no, we've managed to carry on in the early years of online. I got the first website I ever went to get Amstrad stuff from the final edition of Amstrad Action, literally a month or two after Amstrad Action closed. So that's how the online stuff was happening whilst CPC was still commercially kind of alive. Here we are. It's getting in close. Come on then, let's play an Amstrad game. Here we go. Pipeline. Right, let's get him. How do I do this again? Right, I need to just protect the pipeline, don't I? I used to love this game. I'm now so old and senile. There we go. Just protect the pipeline. Ironically, this is a wonderfully colourful game, and that was always the thing about going to my cousin's house, having to play stuff on a green screen, and then borrowing her games and taking them home to my 6128, like Caves of Doom, going, oh, this is what it looks like in colour. Mind you, my mate Jamie with the C64 also only had a black and white telly for his... Have I? Oh, okay. Got to put Autofarm on. He only had a black and white telly, a small one, like 12-inch for his C64, so that was interesting as well. Oh, this is the one with the crab that can only... How did I play with this joystick? I think you sit here. No, the crab. I need to shoot the crab from behind. More crabs. Shoot him. the hours I spent on this game. And it's I know you've got the rivalry with the Spectrum and C64 owners in the playground, and you'd all say nasty things about each other's machines. Today, all these machines are great and fantastic, and we all have our own. I'm dead, aren't I? I need to sacrifice him. I need to sacrifice. Eat the man, don't eat me, don't eat the man, don't eat me, don't eat me. Yes, right, good. You know, you want to have them all today, really. I don't think it's... There are weirdos who just have one type of machine, and I just think you're incredibly unadventurous because there's a whole world of computing out there to experience. And it's, you know, this is me and my memories, but this is still a good game. It's still a very good game. And these are just two games I just picked off the shelf that happen to be two favourites from back in the day. And here I am, when this video goes out, 40 years to the day, playing on a 464 from when it was launched in Westminster School. By the way, the thing about the launch at Westminster School was it was where the invite said something along the lines of come and meet Archimedes and lots of other kind of famous people who are long dead, Einstein and so on. It was masterminded by Nick Hewer, who got all these people with similar names to all these. I'm gonna be dead. Yeah. These similar names here. They had an Einstein, they had an Archimedes, and so on. But of course, Nick Hewer, famous for working on The Apprentice with Alan Sugar and being a host of Countdown. So look, that's my rambling and incoherent tribute to the 464. And I probably could have done an entire history. I could have scripted something, but I don't think with nearly 10 years of this channel, I could have done anything other than just wing it, really, and probably insert a few things in at the end as well, because as I said, this is the final weekly ChinnyVision, the final regular Thursday night video. The channel is not ending. I will just be back as and when. The Patreon has ended, so thank you to everyone who supported the channel via that over the years. I didn't feel that with a reduced schedule it was fair or right to continue to ask for pledges when I'm not going to be able to fulfill the level that people signed up for. So that thank you to those people, because they've enabled so much over the years. And it's been amazing, and I want everyone to stay in contact. I will still be on Blue Sky. I'm not on Twitter anymore. The ChinnyVision Discord will continue for now. If you want an invite, let me know. I will be around. And I never say this, but I'm going to say it now because you're going to need to do this. Because normally you could just go on and expect ChinnyVision on a Thursday night and it'd be there on YouTube. And that's not going to happen. If you do want to know when ChinnyVision is out, you're going to have to, and I hate saying this. Oh, I feel dirty. I have to take a drink before I say it. You're going to have to click that subscribe button and the bell. I'm so sorry. I feel dirty. We all feel dirty. I've denigrated the channel after all this time, but it's the only way you're going to know. Unless you follow me on Blue Sky or Mastodon as well, where I will post updates. And I will put community posts on there as well. So thank you for watching for the last nearly 10 years. It's a couple of months short, but the channel will still be around. Happy birthday to the CPC 464, the second best computer in the universe after the 6128. And it set... would Alan Sugar be doing The Apprentice without the 464? Would he have made another computer if this had lost a load of money? Amstrad were committed to selling a large number of these at the start because the development costs were higher than expected. What would have happened? I don't think they would have gone under by any means, because they were a significant company, much bigger than other companies putting out computers at that time, much bigger than Acorn. And yet, they may have gone, no, this computer thing's a waste of time, let's go back to making CB radios or something. Who knows? That's the legacy of the 464. Thank you for your support over the years. And that, for now, is cheerio from ChinnyVision.